All right, so this hangout is now live. Happy Friday, everybody. Today is July 9th, and you're hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. As always, you can chat along with our Twitter chat over at hashtag CMGR Hangout, where I know some of you are watching. If you love what you see today and have a great idea for a topic or want to join us live in the future, please head over to mycmgr.com. Click on participate, fill out the form. That's how we get these great topics and all these awesome people to come hang out with us on Fridays. So today's topic centers around the real big question of why are you building a community? Is it possible that the community can bond together to create social change? So we're going to talk about social change today, creating movements, taking passionate groups of people, uniting them around a common cause. And once you do that, you can achieve pretty much everything or anything. And so shout out to Carrie Keenan and Sarah Nagel, who are over on Twitter helping us with the Twitter chat. And we're just going to roll right in and let everybody introduce themselves, starting with Tim.
Hey, everyone. It's Tim McDonald. I am the purveyor of purpose at Be the Change Revolutions and work on the No Kid Hungry account, which our goal is to create no kid hungry in America, and hopefully do that very soon so the next generation of kids right now will not know what another generation of hungry kids looks like.
Hey everyone, I'm Sherry, and I co-produce CMGR Hangout here with Brew, as well as lead community and user experience for a company called Rebellion Media.
Is it my turn? I'll go. My name is Yelena, and I am Director of Community with Good at Good.is, and I'm excited to be on my second ever Community Manager Hangout talking about what I do every day.
Go, Rebecca, go!
Oh, wrong Rebecca, there too?
Go, Penguin. I'm pushing the penguin off the ledge. Push, push.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Rebecca. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. There it goes. I'm Rebecca Braulio. I am the Community Engagement Manager at pet360.com, and we do a lot of social good stuff in our community, so I'm really looking forward to today's chat.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mike Fountain. I am a troubleshooter. I work with businesses, groups, teams, and organizations. Basically, I look for trouble, and I look to create creative solutions for them. So this is perfect. I'm really interested in what we're discussing today.
I am Dom Garrett. I am the social media specialist for CET International. We are a international foreign exchange student program. So we really do focus on building change and affecting good cross-culturally through high school students in different programs. So I am really excited to be here as well.
And Carmela.
Okay. I didn't know if it was my go. So hi everyone, I'm Carmela Wani. I go by the Vegan E-commerce Girl. By day, I am an e-commerce specialist for Moleskin, the stationery company. But I am also a vegan lifestyle blogger, a vegan lifestyle coach and educator, and Twitter chat host for Vegan Food Chat, and soon to be started S for Social. So I'm a social media enthusiast, but I like to use my voice to spread the message of compassionate living, as well as talk about animal rights and veganism.
Very cool. Brian Fanzo, iSocial Fans, currently doing my own thing, enjoying the fruits of working from home for a change, so there's a change of scenery for where I'm at, but a big fan of the power of social and the ripples that you can make with communities, quoting Tim, and glad to be here as always.
Guys, and I am Brew, the director of Awesome at Be the Change Revolutions, and co-producer with Sherry of the show. So we're going to jump into the first question, which is, so there's social change and there's social good. What are some of the differences and similarities?
I actually was thinking about that. I think it has to come from part of it is the intent of the change. And, you can push for a change. It doesn't mean it's going to be the overall good for the community that you're leading or a movement that you're trying to start. So you could be trying to bring up something that's completely new, and it may not just, have a factor of do good to it. Where social good is that you're looking to make a change that has a positive impact on a community, on a movement, to bring about change regarding a social issue.
I think that's a great answer. Anybody else got
you.
anything to add? I guess so. So kind of your point would be is that not all social change is good.
Yeah, pretty much. Because look, if we look at history, and we've seen, some dictators and, some other, self-identified heads of whatever have decided to try to make a social change, and it's caused more oppression than anything against, certain groups at large. Then there's no good. But there was a social change because it impacted an entire nation.
Awesome, and I know in kind of doing some research for today, I saw the term social revolution occur a bunch of times on some different Wikipedia articles and things like that, so I think it's kind of interesting, when you look at social media and then these kind of mini social revolutions that take place. Anybody else have anything to add before we just roll right into question 2?
Yeah, I kind of see it slightly differently, in that many times social good is a reflection of how we perceive things to be right now, and social good in many ways can be a maintaining of the status quo, in that we try and do good as we are right now, whereas then we see others driven by, not by an individual, but by a community, by the people, to want change, to overthrow a dictator, or to feed children, or to end poverty, or to give women rights, whatever it may be. So that's been driven, the change has been driven by the masses, whereas I can see social change in many ways, it's about keeping the status quo and just ensuring that the change is at a level that's acceptable, that's just creating change without really making a big impact. It's not doing enough. It's just keeping the status quo.
Well, I've come to learn too, and I know it's not part of what we're actually talking about here, but there's also a difference between change and transformation, because change can be reverted back to its original state. Transformation puts it in a completely different position where you can't go back to where you were before. And I think what we look to do, and that I think really kind of can exemplify to the point that Mike was making, the difference between social good and social change, because change, I think, is more moving towards that revolutionary standpoint where you are creating something where we're not going to go back and revert back to the existing state that we were in. We're going to change it. It might be good. In a lot of senses, we think it's good. Hopefully it is. Otherwise, we're not doing it for the right purpose. But overall, if we can't look back and say that we came from one place and turned it into something different, we're really not creating anything that's sustainable. We're just creating words. We're just creating a feeling that's fleeting.
I mean, I would see it as that this isn't an either-or thing. I would argue that social good movements need the concept of social change, and social change movements need the concept of good. If you just drive toward change without focusing on whether or not it'll be a change that's good, then you get, I think we can all think of some broadly supported community-based movements that led to seriously negative and bad and evil impacts, or just to neutral impacts. I mean, you know, the rise and fall of grunge music is a community movement that was a social change, but neither good nor bad, just something that was. Versus if you know, as Mike pointed out, if you have social good without the concept of social change, then you have excessive support for a status quo. So, hand in hand.
Yeah, I was just bringing in this tweet from Steven. Says change is inevitable, but good is subjective. You guys agree or disagree with that?
I was actually going to say that myself. I mean, change is something that happens. You know, there's nothing that we can really do to stop change from happening. But I think that we all have a responsibility to make sure that things are moving in a good direction. Obviously, good is subjective to a lot of different people, but I think that it's really important that that's what our focus is on, is that we're pushing it in a way that is considered good, because it's going to happen. Change, there's nothing you could do to stop that train.
Yeah, I think that's partially what I end up. You know, I always said my title was a technology evangelist, and really I just taught people how to embrace change, and I always focused less on changing for good or changing for business. My goal was always teaching changing forward. So you would always try to move one step forward with change rather than, you know, the 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. And I think that's really where we're talking good. It's really making forward progression with a lot of the things that we're doing. And it's, you know, change. You know, we all know that you know, everything seems to go in cycles. You know, we're gonna have MC Hammer Pants here back in, you know, sometime soon, where, you know, it seems like things cycle back, but at the same time, if we're changing forward and then learning from the past, it's that whole idea of, you know, you learn from your mistakes, failure is only temporary, and as long as we're moving in the right direction, I think good is, much like Steven said, it matters that we're going the right direction more than anything.
All right, so kind of on this whole topic, what are some community management disciplines, you know, that we can apply to really helping lead social change or making it possible? Now we kind of, I think the group sort of came to this conclusion that the change is going to happen anyways, but you know, as community managers or as leaders in one of those movements, are you able to steer? And I know that kind of changes up the question a little bit, but I mean, are you able to manage it, right? And if you are, what are some disciplines, you know, that you can apply?
I think as a community manager, you have to be in a space where people are already making a change and are already leading and steering a change. There's no, I can't think of any such thing as a successful community that came up and sprouted up in a space where people weren't already making a transformational change. You know, Instagram, Flickr came about because photography was changing. Photography didn't change because Instagram and Flickr appeared. So I think the community management role in this is less to lead and steer a community than to amplify the voices in a community that are most powerful and that are most positive and most good, and give those voices the opportunity to flourish, to reach out to people, to make connections and build those networks for the people who are already actively making a change.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's being able to empower the community to, you know, be the real voice of your community, as well as to be able to educate others. And I don't want to say to draw them in, but to bring them in, because the way that the change is going to happen is because there's people that are already inspired, already engaged in it, who then can go out and inspire others.
If I can jump in, I think that I agree for the most part. I think that there are opportunities, though, for if you have an established community to kind of herd them into a particular area that you think might need focus. The example I'll give is that I work for Pet 360. Our community is pet owners, so and one of the social good campaigns we did was for senior pets, to try to drive some awareness to the senior animals and shelters that usually get overlooked. So having that ability to get people on board and to raise awareness and why they should care and why they should join that cause, I think is definitely, as a community manager, having the ability to get that buy-in with your community on something they might not typically do is a definite needed skill.
Yeah, part of what the whole change idea, I think, where we're a connected social economy today, as part of it is that you could always say that you had an opinion, and in communities people are extremely opinionated depending on the topic or the community, but part of it is I think we can be better educated on the total solution now than we could in the past, where someone would have a strong opinion. And so I strongly believe in that I will never know anything 100% or believe anything's perfect, and how do I know what we're doing or what the change is the right way unless you know all sides of the circle. So part of what I end up doing is even bringing in conversations or bringing in people to give a more holistic view of the change that you're discussing or even the movement that you're trying to make, not to create debate, but I believe that if without knowing the whole sides of the story, how can one be so passionate about that they're 100% correct? Other than some causes like No Kid Hungry, like that's an easy one. The first person that says on that they believe kids should be hungry is the first person I think that would ever have said that. So there's some causes that that are easier sold than others, as we have told.
Yeah, and I think that sort of going back to what Brew was talking about, with what discipline we should have. I remember a quote, and I actually pulled up the tweet from last week. David Hurley from the community manager last week, DB Hurley, said that I'm not a manager, I'm an enabler, and I think that that's really, really important when thinking about inspiring change. Is that while you are sort of managing a community, we really have to be the ones that are sort of enabling people to have a space to be able to move forward and give them an opportunity to do that. Because while we do have a lot of leverage and power, it's really the community itself that's going to spearhead something and take it moving more than just what we're going to do ourselves.
That was awesome, Don. I had that tweet all queued up and ready to go. So
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
No, that was perfect. I don't know. I clicked on it, so I don't know if you guys all saw that or not. But did you guys on your screen see the tweet come up or screw that up? No. Oh, okay. No. Here, let me quick just bring it back up, and I'll talk over it. But yeah, so David Hurley on Twitter, it said strong community managers must listen to their communities and empower everyone to see the same picture. So it's pretty awesome.
Smart words.
Yeah, I think just to paraphrase what everyone said here, leadership is about listening. As soon as we put our stance or what we think we should be doing as leaders, then we're no longer leaders of a community. We're a dictatorship. We're trying to lead out our community to do something that we want them to do, whereas we should actually be sitting back listening to what the people want, and then rightly empowering those people with the skills, the tools, resources to go forward and to actually carry out what they actually want to achieve.
So Mike was going to take my number one thing that nobody else had said.
Yes! Yes!
But I will say, listening is hugely important, but I think another aspect that we really make a mistake in this area is we always try and bring the community to us. And in reality, what we should really be doing, and will be a lot more effective, is if we actually go to where the community already exists. Because you're going to lose people if you try and bring them to you. They might not want to come. You might lose some of the passion and the emotion that they had as far as why they're there. And now all of a sudden you can bring them, you can go out to where they are, where they're gathering, where they're communicating, and now you are already part of what's existing. And I think just like, giving tools, and I mean, we can get into, I don't want to go into the next question already, but by just giving some of those tools and enabling them to do what they're already doing is exactly what we should be doing. Not telling them what to say, not telling them how to do it, just enabling them to be able to do what they already want to do.
I think there can be a happy medium there, though. It's depending on what your community is for. If your community is a place for them to come to learn, and you help provide some of that education, then I think they do look to the community manager for a little bit more leadership. But I think, I mean, I agree with you on what you're saying is getting them to come to the idea of what it is they think they need to be educated on, or what it is they think they need to learn. It may be steering it rather than pushing it on them, if that makes sense.
And I think one other thing, and I think somebody may have hit this before, but being able to be flexible throughout this, I think, is very, very important. If for some reason that's been, I don't know, just popping up with me all week, but this idea of pivoting, like listening to what it is, like in that enabling, paying attention to what other people are saying, and not, you know, getting so head in the sand, but being able to pivot the idea or the message to where it's actually running, you know, steering something like that more than being just the driving force behind it really gives you a lot of opportunity, and you know people are going to be bought into it because they're going to see that you are willing to grow and evolve with the idea as they are.
Can we talk briefly about the meaning of everybody when we talk about a community empowering everybody too? I mean, I think that everybody has to include people who don't communicate like you, who don't look like you, who speak a second language, who may have a neurodivergent level of ability that allows them to communicate in a different way. You know, I think it's really, really easy for any community manager to build a community that enables people who look, think, and speak like them to have a better experience. It takes more active listening, and it takes more fight and more commitment to social good, to positive social change, to create a community that really is universally accessible, and that really is a place where the voices that are lifted up are genuinely the best, the most active, the highest quality, and most powerful voices, not the voices that most closely match the mainstream image and appearance of the community, or that are most like the community manager or like the product leadership.
Can I use your thing, and I think it'll transition into the question.
You sound like a robot, and I'm not sure.
I sound like a robot?
Yeah, who replaced Tim with Terminator Tim?
Well, and it was funny because I thought, oh, was that on my end? And then by the look of everyone's face on the panel, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a global problem.
I like this, then.
There you go. You're good now. You're good now.
Bummer.
Now we can
I
hear
wanted
you.
to be Robot Man the rest of the time.
Yeah, I thought you had a filter on. Is that a new Google Plus plugin? Yeah, go ahead. You sound great now.
So I think, you know, what you were saying, though, is, you know, where I found the most value and the most effective use of my time as a community manager is dealing with what I consider the you know, looking at the 1-9-90 rule, focusing on that 1%, focusing on the major contributors to the community that have the largest impact in the community. Now, that's not to say that the 9% that are engaging with you and the 90% that are just lurking out there and don't ever contribute, don't ever share a voice, are not important. But as a community manager, where do you want to spend your time to get the biggest return? And so, Brew, I'll hand it over to you for the next question.
So, well, all right. So, you, Volley, grab it, dunk it. Thanks for the layup. What role does influence play in social change? Take it away. That was right. Anticlimactic now.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I can talk about influence because that's where I think you know, when you look for your 1%ers, your people that are contributing fully, that are the most passionate and emotional about your brand, they are generally already out there and already have their own network, already have their own community, already have their own people that they're talking to. And so if you can enable them and put them to work in a way that they're already wanting to, you know, this is where, as a brand, as an organization, you don't have to do all the work. You just need to be able to make it easy for those people with influence in your community to go out and do the work for you.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, it's tapping into their passion, right? So if you understand what they're passionate about, what motivates them, it's so easy to just, it's you arm them and activate them, and they do the work. But they'll go back to Dom's listening. I think we've both been in the same Twitter chats all week, hammering home on hearing and listening. But no, I think that's the key right there for the influence is when you understand what matching their passion and their mission. Activating them is let them do what they're really good at because they have a network. Tim's spot on there. They already know that element. It's just like I do a lot of social selling. I don't have to teach someone how to sell. They know how to do that. I need to teach them how to be social, and it's very much the same with influencers.
So what about connecting those influencers, right? It seems like if instead of just enabling these few, these kind of people with their networks and influence over their networks, is there any value in connecting them? As sort of like, anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh no. I think it's huge value because. Personally, my experience has been that, my 1% who does all the content, I really, aside from rewarding them or giving them some kind of perks and appreciation, I can let them go. I don't need to really give them all my time. But getting them to connect with my 9%, to bring them into that 1% has been hugely successful. Not just in censoring more of a sense of community among them, but in making that 1% feel much more involved and rewarded. And then that 1% kind of coaches that 9% on how they can be part of that super user brand advocate spot. So I think by making it more about them and getting them connected together creates more of that connectivity.
Yeah, and I agree completely. And I think that an important thing as well is, I mean, I talk about this all the time, is that a whole idea of being a community manager, and especially in stuff like this, it's like being a host at a dinner party. And the whole point is you want to get people there that are going to be able to, influence each other. And, I can think of everybody that I know that's on this panel. I know exactly how I was introduced to each individual person, like in what fashion I was. And so, when you're working on these things and you're getting these influencers and you're connecting them, that thought remains throughout that, and you buy more into, like the person that introduced me to Brian, for instance, I'm going to buy more into what they are talking about because I've gained so much value from what Brian has shared. So I'm automatically going to be more bought into the person that introduced us. And goes down the line. So if you're being that good enabler, not only enabling them to share their message, but enabling them to be connected with other people, you're sort of just spreading it on. So that was very rambly, but I hope you got the point.
I got totally what you said, and I like that you mentioned the value because value is key in influence. If you're able to connect these influencers, I have identified that there's a value to having them there, and that they can stretch that value of your message out to others. And that's what's really key in connecting them because they help you move forward as you move along with them. And it's kind of like as you see, and you remember, I think there was some commercial in the 80s. I was a kid then, but I remember it would go these quadrants, and that person liked this thing, and then they took it to that person, and they took it to that person, and they took it to that person, and it just kept building and building because there was value presented in the influence, which I think is very important.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I got in this argument yesterday on a hangout, but it was influence to a call to action, but a call to action doesn't always have to be a sale. It could be the sale of value or providing value, and I think that's partially what's changed. I think influence to someone to make a decision, yes, but influence to actually make or define a purchase, I think is wrong because so many times I'm influenced by someone giving me great value and then them great content that I can then share on to someone else that that I'm influencing them to read something of great value, less than something that's an actual purchase, a sale. And I think that's slowly what we're changing. And providing that value is really the difference in how you separate yourself from the noise and how the influencers do what they do best. Because there's lots of people that could label themselves as influencers, gurus, or the master of a domain, but without of followers of people that are either listening or helping, I don't think they won't last long as that title.
Yeah, and I want to make sure everybody's very clear. We get so hung up on the fact that when we talk on social, when we talk with other people on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google Plus that are in marketing, we all start talking about influence as number of followers, amount of reach, how many retweets, all this. But influence comes in so many different forms. I have people that I know that we work with on the No Kid Hungry Social Council that can go out and have political advocacy on Capitol Hill. I know that we have people that can go out and get big donors. I know that we have people that can go out and get a grassroots organization and people together on the field. Now, you look at any one of those people, they don't have too much of any kind of a following on social media. But if you ask me, are they influential? Damn straight they are. They're more influential than me. They're influential than anybody I basically know that has a ton of followers or gets any kind of reach on social media, because everybody's got something to give when it comes to influence. And we can never discount that just because of what we see as far as what they do online, because influence is so much more one-to-one than it is one-to-many.
I literally could not agree anymore. I mean, and that's something that I try to talk about all the time. It's like it doesn't matter what the number of followers that you have. A lot of times it's not just the eyeballs getting on your link or what your thing is. It's the right people getting a hold of it and doing the right thing with it. So an influencer isn't just somebody that has 1 million followers or can tweet something out and gets 10 favorites in a second. It's the person that actually is going to take the time to go through and be passionate about that, because you can sense that, like you can sense the authenticity with people, and you want the people that are going to be really authentic with your message.
Right, and sometimes the click is not the purpose. I had an example where we had a post in our community where somebody was doing a project for children who were living in an impoverished area in the United Kingdom to describe their dream for their neighborhood, no matter how silly it was, even if it was I want my neighborhood to have a swimming pool full of unicorns. And they shared that on Good. It got a handful of upvotes. I'd totally forgotten the post. I remember now thinking it was cool at the time, but yeah, I'd totally forgotten it. And then I hear from the person who posted it that over half of they posted that they were looking for artists to draw these kids' dreams for their neighborhood and bring them to life in a piece of art to show these kids that, however crazy your dream is, you can envision it and that can be part of your vision. And over half of the people who came through and drew a dream for a child came from this post that only had a handful of upvotes. So I think frequently the action-oriented people, the people who are influenced toward action, they're not interested in clicktivism. They're not interested in just retweeting. They're not interested in meaningless petition signatures. They're interested in how quickly can I get from seeing this online to meaningfully acting with influence in the real world. And those moments when they happen they take a little bit more work to measure, but they're pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see when the influence of a social network is not this got 400 upvotes or 600 retweets. It's that this brought 12 children who are told by their environment and by even their peers that they can't have a dream to hold their dream in their hand as a piece of original artwork that they can hang on their wall and be reminded that they are allowed to have a dream.
Can I answer? Can I give an answer, please? Please, Lisa. Okay. Well, I've been listening to this, and it's really interesting because it got me thinking about all the people I know on social media and who I would deem to be the most influential. And for me, it's the connectors. The connectors are the people who are the most influential, irrespective of what size they are. And then when I was listening to the conversation here, I actually began inviting here, And the answer is one group. It's all the groups. It's the listeners. It's the connectors. It's the action takers. It's the dreamers. It requires all the dynamics. It's not one. There's not one answer to the question here. It's a combination of everyone. Every skill set's needed in terms of the disciplines to make a community work and to be a community leader.
You can drop the mic now. This is the time when you drop the mic.
Drop the mic and walk off the stage. It's done.
Bye-bye. I'm out of here.
No, Mike, I'd like to bring in this tweet here. There's a lot of great stuff also going on Twitter. Simon had said that influence plays a huge role. Think of all the social movements that are basically boiled down to one person by history, right? And when we start kind of thinking about like kind of change with a purpose, like us purposely driving some change and connecting people, and Mike, as you just said, sort of almost orchestrating or being the symphony orchestrator of this change. We're able to do so much more, and so I just thought it was a good time to bring that in. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I try to explain there?
It makes sense. And I just want to talk about when we think about social, a lot of us just think online, but we have this social media kind of thing going on offline, and I like the connections that I've made offline, be it through meetups that I organize or just through one-to-one connections that have ended up going online, where for one instance, I organized a trip to an animal sanctuary. And I just did it because there were people that had been wanting to go, and they were like, well, I just want to see what it's all about. And I thought it would just be a group of fellow vegans and vegetarians that would be a part. But no, somebody said, well, I looked at your blog, or maybe they came onto Twitter, saw the vegan food chat or whatever, and then they saw the meetup invite and decided that they wanted to come along and see what is this whole vegan thing all about, and why should we be going to an animal sanctuary. And went, and I didn't really have to say anything. I just wanted that person to go and have an experience and, connect with some animals and see if it made any sort of change. I connected with that person at a restaurant maybe about a month later and had a conversation. And, of course, we went to a vegan place because they felt it was what I would want to do. And I said, okay, well, what did the experience do for you? And they said, well, it got me to understand what this whole vegan movement is about. It got me to understand what you're trying to do, what other people are trying to do. It's like, I'm not quite there yet to go vegan. I'm not quite there yet to go vegetarian. But I was able to connect with some really cool people, and I want to come to another meetup, and I want to maybe learn more before I decide to make a transition towards adopting a vegan lifestyle, understanding more about animal rights. And I think those connections just those offline connections really can help a movement and then be able to take it online as well. So you kind of can see it going vice versa, where a social movement can happen online and then go offline, but you can also see it go offline and then brought online. And as it's one of those things that I really have enjoyed just by sharing, be my own personal story and sharing the passion that I have for the causes that I support, and then just seeing having people listen and then saying, oh, this is something I may not undertake, but it might be something I just want to learn about, and I want to be a part of community just to see how it moves and see if it fits into my life. Sorry, I was running on there, but
responding to that tweet that was on the screen a moment ago about movements that have been boiled down in history to basically one person, the quote comes to mind, never doubt that a small and dedicated group of people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. But of course, we also have to remember that even in cases where there was one voice that became the leader and the most powerful and fun story to tell about the movement, there were always support networks. And it's important to give credit to those support networks. We've seen on Twitter so frequently when a hashtag goes viral, the mainstream media coverage of it completely erases the person who started the hashtag because they're just a person who had an idea. They're not what the mainstream idea of an influencer is. They're not somebody with 1.2 million followers. And leaving those people out of the story, I think, leaves us out of the opportunity to connect with the person who really is the idea person and the visionary in the room. So I feel like if social media had been around and you could do a date-restricted, domain-restricted search for who had this idea first with some of these historical movements, you know, very frequently, especially back as far in history as you go to the point where the voices and stories of women were largely erased systematically, if you could do that date-restricted search and say, okay, who first came up with the hashtag 1776 American Revolution? Frequently you'd find that it was a woman or someone who was not a landowner or someone who was not considered an acceptable hero of the narrative at the time. So I feel like social media and social communities actually give us the opportunity to deny history the opportunity to boil down a narrative that's really about a group and a movement to a single person, and I think that's a huge, huge positive where the fact and the record and the fact that technology makes that record permanent and searchable means that we have the opportunity to call out and give credit to all of the people who are part of the movement, not just the ones that are considered the acceptable hero of the narrative.
Hashtag Boston Tea Party. Hashtag shh, don't tell the Brits.
Have you seen it, the Tumblr about texts from superheroes?
No, I haven't seen that one.
There's a great one that says, you know, Captain America, what are your July 4th plans? And he says something very Captain America-like and excessive and over the top. And the other guy, I think Hawkeye, says, well, at least you're not doing what Tony Stark is doing. He says, why? What's Tony Stark doing? He says, don't ask, but it involves a $17 million yacht and $2 million worth of imported British tea.
Oh, man. I know this is slightly going off, but it just sort of reminds me of the July 3rd date that Newcastle did, the hashtag if we had won, because they're a British beer company, and July 3rd was, what was it, Independence Eve, and they were talking about what America would be like if it was Great Britain too. Go check out those adverts because they're absolutely hilarious. I just had to throw that out there.
And if you're listening, send us free beer. Okay.
Yes, we'll take that too. If Newcastle wants to sponsor the community manager hangout,
we'd be down with that. All right, so and real quick, everybody watching over on Twitter, please feel free to tweet us if you have any questions for the group. We can bring them in. And so while we're waiting for your questions, we're going to talk about this. So as I was doing a little bit of research, it said that the most common sort of, I guess, model of change and basic model of change is this thing called the Helgian method, or the Helgian model, and it's based on the interaction of opposing forces. And so I thought it might be interesting. You know, I mean, for me, the first thing that came to mind is, just from a pure stripped-down moderation standpoint, where you're the community manager and you have to there's some opposing ideas going on, and what do you do with them? And you think about it, right? And change, there has to be a little bit of opposition going on. It's not like everything's a yay feel good type of thing. At times you're going to have disagreements, and so I just thought that'd be interesting to talk about a little bit. What do you guys think? You don't think it was interesting?
Well, no. I mean, I think it's fundamental. Am I talking like a robot again, or?
No, you're good.
I really want to talk like a robot again.
Drew was so defeated there.
Well, I guess you guys don't think it's interesting. No, if everybody thinks the same way, you're never going to have change because everybody wants to keep it exactly the same way it is. Change happens because one person has a different idea that they try and get others to believe in. And when you're looking at change in mass, like we're talking about in communities, you are always going to have opposing forces coming together. And Brian, I think you said earlier about, who's going to say that there should be no kid hungry in the U.S.? Well, nobody's going to say it like that. But there are people that come in and say, why are you providing to this, this organization? Why are you using the money in this way when you should really be focusing on this particular food bank in this neighborhood doing this? And so there are different and opposing viewpoints coming in of what the cause is. Now, what I think my role is as a community manager, and what our team's role is in providing the community with a balance is, here's a person that's opposing view coming in, but they still have the basic bottom line of they don't want to see any kid hungry in the U.S. So let's come together and understand that we both are coming from a mutual understanding that we both want to see the same thing happen. Now, we might have different viewpoints on how we're going to get there, but let's understand and start talking from that viewpoint instead of from the opposing viewpoints. Let's look at what we have in common instead of what we have opposing, and then start building from there. And so I think, the opposing viewpoints are really the opportunities that we have as community managers to bring other people into the fold and get them involved in what we're doing once we can kind of let them see what our message is, what we have in common with them, and how we can work together to make this change happen.
Yeah, I love that, because
I'm going to break a rule about talking in public here and bring up, not personally, but bring up the concept of religion, because the Helgian model of change always makes me think of one particular professor I had in college, and the course happens to be comparative religions, which was very interesting to me because I was raised in a completely non-religious, neither atheist nor religious, just non-entity household. So I found this class fascinating, and the professor had actually written a book and an academic treatise around the concept that actively discussing difference can defuse some of the religious conflicts in the world. And he proposed that this anti-conflict type of negotiation around difference could be conducted by taking the principle at the beginning of the discussion that there's a lot of room in the world, and if we talk about how we believe differently, that's naturally going to lead us to say at a certain point, okay, we've talked about all of our differences. Wait, now the rest of us, the majority of us, is the same. We talked about the 5% of our beliefs that are different. We exhausted that topic. And wait, the other 95% of us we're humans, we believe in love, we believe in caring for the poor, we believe in trying to live your best life, we believe in attending, some kind of service. There's so much more in common. So I feel like in social change movements, that kind of anti-conflict language and negotiation and active listening can work incredibly well. To go to Tim's example, if you have somebody who's coming to you and saying, why are you giving to this organization, or why are you feeding this community of children when you could be feeding that one? The response can be, it's a big world. There's room for you to have an interest in feeding that group of children and me to have an interest in feeding these children, and Jim over there, who we don't even know yet, to have an interest in this third group of children. Let's talk about how I can empower you to do the work that you gravitate toward. You can empower me to do the work that I gravitate toward, and we can together reach out to the people who are not yet even working on the problem of childhood hunger and say, hey, I'm working in this area, my friend here is working in that area, this other guy is working in this area. Which of us would you like to join? What appeals to you? There's a place for everybody.
Yeah, that plays right into my, you understand that they have this similar mission and they're passionate, right? So you have the two key ingredients there. To now it's just, it's connecting. It's that great connector. So I love that part of it, because oftentimes the problem is that it's the people that are the anti-mission, or the people that are passionate for only I love using the hashtag haters gonna hate, because I constantly see people that love to put people down for no good reason other than they were the bully in high school and they just like to be trolls or hate on other people, and really those are the ones that we have to go against or push it back. But it's the passionate people that see the same mission that are helping the cause and finding common grounds is powerful.
This is so resonating with me because I had a conversation last night about this with my thesis supervisor, talking about you know, when you have a community and you're building a community, how much power should you, if any, be giving to a small portion of that community who essentially can be your disruptors, and especially if it's going to go a negative route? And we were, we were drawing on a whiteboard and trying to build up ways to measure this, and it was just something that, looking, of course, for me, because my study is around veganism and animal rights and such, we have so many divisions just within that movement, within that community, that many, and sometimes with myself, I've gotten caught up in it, that you lose sight that we all have, there's a common bond that brought us all together. Why are we all here despite our own beliefs? Something brought us together, and it's the passion that we have, and there's something that we can find. So, if somebody has an issue with vegans who eat honey, which is an actual situation, they can try to do something positive, and other people in the group can help them, educate, if you need to educate people on, is honey okay for vegans? Is it not? Provide support to different factions within the community and let them run with whatever idea, as long as it keeps the community together. And it was just so interesting because my supervisor and I, we talked about this in terms of religion and dogma and such, and it really got pretty intense as we were trying to decipher, at what point is it okay to say that a small faction of your community can then take over and then become a larger voice? And should you even allow for that? So it's something that I'm actually still working through that with my study, but this all resonated because we just had this conversation last night.
And one thing, just to go off of that, I mean, when we were talking about these different viewpoints, and Elena brought up a good point when she did mention religion, and not going too deep into that. I actually, for about 3 years, was actually studying to be a pastor, and one of the things that one of my professors once told me was this idea of small cup to big cup issues. And this whole idea, and it works well within a community, you're going to have people that are going to disagree with you on a lot of different things. But if you picture like a shot glass, and then a rocks glass, and then a pint glass, and then, a pitcher, and you can see now through my analogy why I'm not going to be a pastor with the glasses that I choose. But you see those, and, within a community, you're going to have people that are going to have different issues. Your big one, your pitcher, that's your entire community, and there's going to be a lot of varying, differentiating opinions within there. But the smaller you get are the issues, like a shot glass is that idea that, for instance, no kid should go hungry. That's a small cup, a shot glass type issue. That if you do not really agree with this, it's going to be very hard to work and collaborate with you in a community. And it goes up. So, you don't need to have these big splits. If you're talking about your whole community and you're looking at the pitcher, there's going to be a couple of differentiating opinions, like we were talking about the honey, whether a vegan should eat that or not. So those things are going to differentiate if you're really paying attention to what issues within the community are your small cup to your bigger cup. I think that's a good way to differentiate when you really think about how much effort you are going to put into addressing a specific topic.
I think that, if I can jump in on that, I think that it's so important, especially not to be scared of it when you're trying to figure that out or find that balance. I know that we were just saying in the chat, in the animal world, people are very passionate about their beliefs and where they stand, and there is a very, very vocal minority in any group, I'm sure, but not just to give them their platform to say what they need to say, but to not let it scare you or not let it scare the brand, to let it come out. Because I think that as a community manager, having that hands-off type of attitude towards it, but steering them back to what's our common goal again, why are we all here? Oh, right, we all care about the same thing, we just want to get there in a different way. But to that controversy or that loud minority that goes against the majority is great. It's great engagement. It's how things get rolling. It's how people get talking to one another.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in here, and I'm going to pick up on the religious thing again, slightly, just because where I live in Northern Ireland, and we have a whole heap. Tomorrow's the 12th of July, obviously you know. 12th of July over here is when we have the Battle of the Boyne Remembrance Day, where a bunch of people, Protestants, walk around and have a big parade and bang drums and stuff and shout very loudly and drink lots of alcohol. And then the Catholic side of the population hate it, and there's always a massive conflict. The problem here, and this is why I'm drawing a parallel here with these, is they both believe in the same God, they both believe in the same religion, yet they both have very different viewpoints. And this is what we have with communities. The problem with many communities is they can isolate themselves by creating a shield around them where they say, we're right. And they focus on the, as Dom said earlier, on the shot glass. And that's the thing that's important to them. And it is true, we need to sit back as leaders, as community managers, etc., more so as leaders, sit back and to look at the things that unite us. We're all human beings on the same planet with the same limited resources. If we start fixating on the shot glass issues, then we're going to become quite stuck as a civilization. And I think as leaders, community managers, we need to look at what unites us. Hunger with children, that's a massive issue. People shouldn't be going hungry. People shouldn't be homeless. There's enough resources in the world to feed and shelter everyone. It's just those resources are mismanaged at the moment. So I think what can we do as managers, or community leaders, I should say, community managers, is we've got to focus on what unites everyone rather than fixating on the individuals. That's my take on it anyway.
Yeah, and I agree completely. I mean, it's one of the things that I personally, in my own life, you know, outside of just business, is the reason that I love social is because of the connection that it has with everybody. And I love connecting with people and finding out what we have in common. And you put it so well when you say we are all, I mean, we are all humans on this planet. This is what we are. We are all here. We're sharing this exact same existence. And there are these universal things, no matter what your race, religion, you know, what business you're in, there are things that we can all get behind and realize that we all have, for instance, very similar small cup issues. We all have very similar small cup similarities that, you know, I'm a person who is on the earth right now. You are the same thing. Let's figure out how to make this place better. Yeah. And whatever way, I know that's a really simple way to look at it, but it's, you know, as a community manager, I look at myself as a storyteller. And as a connector, you have to be a storyteller and say, hey, you and I, let me paint the picture of how we're all together. Now, once we are all bought into that, let's figure out what we can actually do moving forward. And that's the most important thing.
It's got to start with the why, really, hasn't it? I noticed, I think it's gone, but behind his shoulder there, his book, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And, you know, that's the reason. We have to start with the cause of what we're passionate about, but it has to be a passion that's shared universally, globally. Again, I know this is taken from a small community, but there are communities' issues that have an impact on everyone. And it's not just rectifying hunger in one city or one country, it's rectifying hunger everywhere, because it's a global issue. It's not isolated to one city or one town or one state.
I have a philosophy about this kind of thing where if you're just working for something different than I'm working for, I would love to engage with you. I would love to have constructive, functional conflict with you. If you are just working against the concept of other people doing work, if your idea is simply to silence and prevent the work of others, I have no interest in engaging with you. If you have to be doing your own work for me to consider you a functional part of the conflict. If you are, then let's go, let's talk about differences and what we have in common.
And with that, we have to go. That was a great close, so thank you. And it's funny, so what you guys couldn't see is in the chat, we were talking about fruit flies, and sure enough, a fruit fly just landed in front of me.
That's the power of the secret.
Oh my goodness. So,
The universe will bring it to you.
Yep.
yes. Right. Jeez. Louise. Do not put things in Google
You
Chat.
should have been thinking about Newcastle beer more.
I know. Right. We should start thinking about Newcastle beer instead of fruit flies, guys. So, anyways, thank you so much. This was great. We didn't even get to our last question, but that's okay. We'll bring this topic back again for sure. And Sherry, what do we have coming up?
Next week we're talking about choosing a community platform, so should be a good chat.
Platforms. Awesome. All right, great. Well, until next Friday, everybody have a great weekend and a safe week.
You too, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you later, guys.